tell a lie today, but I just didn't have the time to prepare one. You know how it goes. Life kind of gets in the way of best intentions. Actually, it started about 5 weeks ago when my wife asked me to fix a leaky faucet in the upstairs bathroom. Sure, I said, no problem. I'm handy with this sort of thing. So I reached under the counter, turned the water off, removed the faucet handles, and then I began to unscrew the retaining ring that seated the faucet valve. When I made that last turn, spindle top blew. I struck an H2O gusher of pressurized city water. It was like having Old Faithful in your very own bathroom. I dove under the counter to tighten the cutoff valve some more, but it just wouldn't budge. So I turned harder, and it broke off in my hand. Meanwhile, the geyser's pumping 4 gallons a minute into my bathroom. It blasted out of the countertop like the East Mall fountain at UT. The best I could do was run for the water meter cutoff valve at the street. By the time I got back to my bathroom, it looked like somebody had turned a fire hose on it for 20 minutes. Well, I measure the complexity of household projects by the number of trips I make to Home Depot. This was a 2-tripper, 16 miles each, to rent and return a wet, dry vac. So I got the vac and all the towels in the house, and I started soaking up the carpet. Then I pulled up the carpet, borrowed every fan in the neighborhood, and set them to blow on my floor dry. Well, despite the fact that I lived in a wind tunnel for 3 days, the carpet mildewed, and I ended up having to replace it at a cost of $1,500. Then I spent 4 hours under that sink counter getting high on the cleaning fluids that were there, replacing the cutoff valve, the water line, the escutcheons, and the faucet valves. It was 5 more trips to Home Depot to get parts, go back and exchange things that weren't the right size, and then get the stuff that I forgot. Well, eventually I got it all put back together again, and it looked great for a week. And then I noticed that the bathroom floor was starting to buckle up, and the carpet was wet. Well, at that exact same moment, there was a loud explosion downstairs, and I lost all power and light in the house. I ran down into the garage just in time to see the breaker box burn itself out. Well, it took me a good bit of detective work to figure out what had happened. I started by pulling up the carpet to find that the subflooring was all waterlogged and warped. Then I followed the water trail back to the very same sink that I just fixed, but there weren't any leaks there. It was only when I punched a hole in the wall that I found the copper pipe with the broken solder joint on it. It must have broken when I replaced the cutoff valve. Like a hypodermic needle, it was spewing forth a minuscule stream of water from the broken joint. It hit the stud next to it, channeled right down to the subfloor, and then it soaked into the plywood. It took days for the plywood to saturate and begin to warp. When it did, the carpet was ruined again, and then the water began to drip into the downstairs bathroom light fixture. Well, the light fixture started filling up like a fishbowl until it had so much water and weight that the ceiling wouldn't hold it. When it fell out of the ceiling, it ripped all the wiring apart. The wires crossed, creating a dead short. The circuit breaker failed, and the breaker box exploded in an amazing conflagration of sounds, smokes, and smells. It cost me $2,000 to have an electrician replace the breaker box, another $500 to have the house brought up to code. Then I fixed the solder joint, I patched the hole in the wall, I ripped out all of the brand new carpeting and hauled it off, Then I cut out all of the waterlogged subfloor. 5 more trips to Home Depot. It wasn't my fault that my wife was using the downstairs bathroom when I slipped on the exposed joist and fell through the ceiling. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but she was understandably upset to be covered with sheetrock with 2 legs dangling above her in such a private moment. Well, after 3 more trips to Home Depot, I finally got all of the subflooring relaid. Then I called the carpet company, and for another $1,500, they were glad to come out and replace the carpet a second time. That brings me to today and the downstairs bathroom ceiling. Now you have to understand that the downstairs bathroom is a small room. You can't even open up a lateral in it. But at 6'3", I'm easily tall enough to stand on the toilet and reach the ceiling. So I have my circular saw out, and I'm cutting out all of the old damaged ceiling when the toilet lid breaks under my weight. I lose my balance. When I raise up my hand to catch my balance, that's when I cut my finger off. Now the severed finger and I are going down. It lands in the toilet, and I land on the handle. The sick feeling that I feel in the pit of my stomach when I hear that toilet flush was unlike any other I've ever experienced in my youthful toilet-hugging days. On the bright side of things, I guess it's easier to sew an amputated finger closed than to reattach it. Well, after the quacks get through with me today, I have to pull out the old sheetrock, put in a new panel, spackle it, paint it, and then replace the toilet seat. I figure it's maybe 4 more trips to Home Depot. Well, unfortunately, I'm not quite as handy as I once was. But if there's one thing